Muse is a very famous English rock band, and basically they came on waves in 1994, but they didn't really make their huge appearance until their first ever album was Showbiz in 1999, and didn't really make a big deal here in the States until Origin of Symmetry in 2001, which is one of my favorite albums of all time. Also, Absolution is a very great album with some very great songs, and Black Holes and Revelations is another one of my favorite albums. Some people consider them one of the best rock albums of all time. And then we kind of get into the downfall of Muse with Resistance in 2009, which I thought had a couple good songs. I did like the EXO Origins, whatever, it was like the last three songs. It was the first one, it was part one. I can't remember the name of it. I thought that was a very good kind of harmonic, epic feeling kind of song. Something you would probably see in like a twist ending of a big ass movie. I felt like that was a very good song, but then it just kind of got weird with part two and part three. Even though I felt like they did have some good songs on that album, it just didn't. It just didn't necessarily work for me all too much. And then we have the second law, which again, lots of it does not really work for me, but there are lots of songs. There are a couple songs in this album that I love. Madness is one of them, I think. I think Madness, I can't remember. But definitely Survival. Survival is freaking amazing. It's one of my favorite Muse songs just because it's just so fucking crazy. It's just, you feel like when you're watching this that they should that, like, if like someone were to create a montage of it, you just have a bunch of explosions and just fucking shit going everywhere. It's just one of those epic feeling kind of songs, and at least personally I fucking love it. But overall, the second law, at least in the public's eyes, wasn't very necessarily a hit. Lots of people didn't really like this album, so people were interested to see what will the great Muse do with Drones, the latest album. And the first song they released, I believe, was Dead Inside, or was it Psycho? Either way, I'm just going to kind of go off of the album list from single to or song to song here. Unfortunately, I forget which songs they released, but the first song on this album is called Dead Inside. It starts very weird at first. It's called Dead Inside. It's a very weird kind of way to open a song, but personally, I very much like it. It's a very kind of weird song. I think it's a very great way to kind of set the mood for what you're gonna get later. This album also, with the title Drones, has a lot to do with not necessarily air drones. They're not necessarily, the kind of drones that we see bombing, that John Oliver did a special about, of, bombing Pakistan and all that, all that stuff, the American drones, all that stuff that are kind of watching us every now and then. No, it's about us being the drones, us being manipulated by the government, which I guess Air Force drones do have a part of, but this is basically us being the drones, them controlling us, them doing every move to us. It's essentially, that's what I kind of got from it, and it was kind of just saying, fuck the government, fuck the system, all this is bullshit, that what you're doing, so fucking stop. And that's basically what I got from Drones. And with Dead Inside, I felt like that's kind of the leading into that we're all dead inside, and that we're now about to be controlled by the government. And even the album cover kind of shows that. And then the second one is just drill sergeants. Basically, kind of reminds me of Full Metal Jacket almost, which especially, it's pretty much all these. It's 21 second, not even really a track. It's just a setup into the next song that they also play during Psycho. And Psycho, about halfway through, I was like, I'm digging the song. And then it kind of goes into the 3 Days Grace Human element, where I'm like, ooh, I'm liking it, but then you keep on repeating it. You can't repeat it. I want something new. And I felt like that's kind of what Psycho became, and I didn't want that with Psycho. And personally, I just thought that Psycho was very just, it was very repetitive. Lots of it I did like. I did like the guitar riff. I don't really hate the song, but it's not something I'm gonna go back to and listen over and over again like I have with another song coming up. However, I will still say it is a good song. It's just very repetitive, and it's not something I would personally want to listen to again. Trying to listen to a second time is very just, I want to go back to a different song later. And that's just kind of them outdoing themselves, in my opinion. And then this is where we start to get into the good part of the album, Mercy. I love Mercy. Mercy is so good. It's not the long, so I think it's one of the short, I think it's the shortest track on this. No, Drones is actually the shortest track, but it's the second to shortest track. It's one of my favorites on this album. Then Reapers, oh my fucking god, this song is amazing. The chorus, just my god, it's one of my favorite songs this year. I can't stop fucking playing it, guys. I don't know why it's so goddamn. I don't know. It's not even really catchy. It's just the way it starts just fucking kind of reminds me a little bit of Survival. Actually, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the middle of Survival, I should say. Not the way Survival starts from the second law, but the way Survival comes in the middle, how it just starts ramping up. I feel like that's the way this song starts, and then it just kind of gets into it. And the chorus, I always love a song when it has a great chorus. And this chorus is great, and I love it towards the end. It's just building up, and I personally love it. And then we have The Handler, which is a really good song as well. I feel like once we get into this is when it's kind of become the whole drone thing. It was really prevalent during Dead Inside, and I feel a little bit of Mercy and Psycho. But I feel like this is when it's starting to kind of go away, but at the same time, you're starting to see hints of it, but not as much as it was earlier. Now, right here, we're about 5 songs in, about halfway in, and I'm like, damn. When I'm listening to the other Muse albums, and I'm listening halfway, I'm like, there's only a couple songs that I'm kind of digging through this. Right now, I'm pretty much digging everything besides Psycho. And I'm still liking Psycho. Again, it's just a little bit repetitive, but I still like it. I still like the guitar riffs. There's still a lot to appreciate about that song. But so far, I'm digging every song. And that's very rare for albums today, and it's been very rare for the past 2 Muse albums. So that's a good sign right there. It already shows that you pretty much beat your past 2 albums. And then we get to JFK, which is just a JFK speech. And then we get into Defector, which which comes out of the JFK speech. But Defector is just, it's one of my lesser favorites. I don't think it's bad. It's just, it doesn't stick with me when I'm trying to think of all songs right now. It just doesn't stick with me like, again, Reaper's Mercy and Handler does. Aftermath. This is another one of my favorite songs here. It's so damn, it's like, it's so emotional. You feel all the emotion inside. Right? And it starts off slow, it's kind of going through, and it's just, then it just kicks in the old Muse way that we want, and it is good. It is a great song. It's very emotional. You can feel the emotion inside you, and it just kind of leads off of what Revolt did, and it's just basically the aftermath of Revolt, and it's just fucking awesome. I love it. The Globalist premium only. It kind of starts off very slow, but you kind of get that country western feel almost. Am I the only one feeling that? And then it kind of goes on. It's one of those longer tracks. And I felt like there was a point where I was like, why is this so long? But at the same time, I was still digging the instrumentals. The instrumentals on this song were pretty great. It's a very good song. Again, very long, not something that's gonna have a lot of replay value. But when you're listening to the full album, it sure as hell works. And that's what I have to appreciate about this album by Muse. It feels like a whole album. Like all their albums feel like actual albums. But this year, there's not really one that's like a single. Like with Psycho, you enter Dead Inside, even though they released those before this album came out, you still have to listen to those. If you want to get the full meaning of that, you still have to listen to the full album. It's not just like single after single after single. This is a full album telling a story, and I fucking love that. And then we end it with Drones, a very sad song, very emotional. Goes out on a bang. It goes out. It's not my favorite song on the list. Again, it's a closer. Closing songs don't really get to me as much unless it's a very emotional, pound-hitting song that's just boom. I think the album I just reviewed, Young Guns, did that very well with ones and zeros, and I feel like also Drake. I know this is like a different genre, but Drake did that very well with 6 p.m. in New York. This song was just, they wanted to end it on a very emotional note, because basically the last three, as what I've heard seen them referenced to online, is like a trilogy, and I can definitely see that they're all very emotional, slow, and sad, and I feel like that makes sense. And for them to end it out this way with the last three songs, I'm like, yeah, that works. So basically, in my opinion, the first once it hits JFK, I feel like it doesn't necessarily go down, but at the same time, it starts to slow down. I feel like the first six songs of them revolt was basically the drones of them being controlled and just like fuck this, we'll revolt, and then it starts to revolting for number nine. But I feel like the first six songs, or I guess it's the first five. But once we hit JFK with number seven, I'm like, that's when the album starts to slow down, and I feel like the first five songs technically, because Drill Sergeant is the song, but the first half, I'm gonna call it from now on. The first half was just so, it was just so like up tempo, and like it was just so fucking crazy, and it was basically the start of all of it, and then towards the end, it just ends and it goes emotional. And I feel like I'm definitely, if I'm ever gonna have to go back to listen to this album again, I'm definitely gonna be listening to the first half. But if I'm listening to the first half, I'm gonna want to listen to the last half, because that is what an album did, and I feel like they did this album right. I feel like I finally got the fucking Muse that I've always wanted. Let's go with favorite tracks and least favorite tracks. Favorite tracks are gonna be Dead Inside, Mercy, The Handler, Aftermath, and Reapers. And I guess I could add Psycho, but it's not necessarily my least favorite either. It's just kind of in the middle there. It's not something I'm ever gonna. Maybe it just needs a little bit more time for me to listen to. Even though it's been out, I've kind of been slacking on Muse, so this is kind of my first time listening to a lot of these songs for a second and third time. I think I listened to Psycho and Dead Inside once before I listened to this album. And then my least favorites are gonna be uh, is gonna be I think Revolt and Drones. Even though Drones, I feel like without Drones, you're not gonna be able to have the ending that you want. So I guess I'm just gonna have a default Revolt and Defector. I can't really put Drones in there as a song because it's basically there just to end the album out, in my opinion. So I'm not really gonna put that as my least favorite, but I'm gonna put Revolt and Defector up there as my least favorite. Then again, there's not really a bad song on this album. Just not really anything. Just there's not really any bad songs. There's lots of great ones, and the worst it gets is it's pretty good. Basically, it's not okay. It's not bad. It's just pretty good because it's not something I really hate, but I really just don't feel like I'm ever gonna go back and listen to it. But then again, if I want to listen to this whole album, I'm gonna have to listen to those songs, and as a whole album, it works for the songs, and then there's some that just works for singles. I'm kind of surprised they didn't release Reapers before because fucking I don't know what it is. I love Reapers. Reapers is one of my favorite Muse songs now. It's fucking awesome. I listened to it so many times today. It's one of my favorite songs. It's definitely my favorite song this year that's been released. And I can't wait to freaking see what else can top that, because right now that's number one. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna give this album review a 9 out of 10. It's a very good album. A couple ones that were just pretty good. Probably the reason why I'm not giving this a 10 out of 10. I feel like it's a very good and well constructed album, as it has lots of singles out there that will work on its own, but also you kind of want to listen to the whole album to get the whole meaning and the whole message. I feel like the message that they got across worked for me, and I feel like it was very, very well done. And I feel like it wasn't necessarily, there were times where I feel like they were kind of shoving it down our throats, but then I feel like most of the time they weren't. And I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. It was a very great album, guys. So I hope you guys did all enjoy this album review. If you haven't, check out my Young Guns 1 to Zero's album review I put out probably about 10 minutes ago, or no, 20 minutes ago, actually, after recording this right now. I'm going to have some more album reviews in the future. I really did love talking about this album. Hopefully next time I'll be a little bit more prepared and do a little bit more research before I actually do an album review. But I still love doing this, guys. Thanks you guys all for watching. Hope you guys did all enjoy it, and stay tuned for more. Peace.